From China and Japan to South Korea, the rise of prestige games from Asia have made their way beyond the indie space and into the AAA market. Recently, developers from China have focused on expanding video game development aimed specifically for global audiences, creating adrenaline-fueled action experiences with photorealistic graphics and captivating narratives. Hey everyone, it's Cristian, and today on the Penultimate Conquest, we'll be going over the top 10 games from Asia that look absolutely incredible. While most of these are variations of action RPGs, my hope is that you find at least one of these prestige experiences compelling enough to add to your own want-to playlists. Without further ado, let's jump right in. Kicking things off at number 10 is Like a Dragon Ishin from RGG Studio. Recently announced at Sony's September State of Play, Ishin is a remake of the Like a Dragon spin-off title, which originally released on PS3 and PS4 back in 2014, and is finally getting a Western release outside of Japan. Ishin is described as an action-adventure historical thriller set in 1860s fictional Kyoto, which tells the story of how the samurai era vanished. In Ishin, you play as Sakamoto Ryoma, a real-life historical figure credited with overthrowing the shogunate and taking Japan into radical reformation. And the gameplay looks like it absolutely rips. You'll have the option of using stylish sword combat with the swordsman style, wielding a revolver for the sharpshooter gunman style, combining both for wild dancer style, or using neither, brutally beating enemies with your fists with brawler style. The game also apparently lets you summon a tiger to maul your foes, which just sounds absolutely incredible. RGG stated that Ishin is completely rebuilt from the ground up in Unreal Engine 4 and will feature upgraded textures and finer graphical detail to help tell one of its most cinematic tales in the series. Best news of all, we won't have to wait very long as Like a Dragon Ishin is slated for release February 21st, 2023. Moving on to number 9 is Lost Soul Aside by Ulti0 Games, and shout out Cameron Hawkins, who is also super excited for this game. Originally revealed in 2016, Lost Soul Aside seemingly began the rise in prestige AAA Asian games, specifically in China, by showcasing stylish combat, ripe with cool neon sword effects, gorgeous graphics, and gripping combat. And while it did begin development with only one person, creator and now game director of Lost Soul Aside, Yang Bing, has since grown the team to realize the full scope of the game. Sony Shanghai even recently backed Ulti0 Games through its China Hero project, a program which provides support for Chinese developers and helps them get their games into the global market. Lost Soul Aside looks like it absolutely rips as well. Its fast action hack and slash gameplay looks not only addicting, but the visual spectacle while in combat looks extremely satisfying to master. And if that wasn't enough, the composer of the Devil May Cry series, Cody Matthew Johnson, stated that he was also writing music for the game. And even if Ulti0 Games is just currently showing off tech demos for Lost Soul Aside, it's clear they have full confidence in making cool, fun gameplay we expect from Asian action games, and I can't wait to see what we get in further updates. At number 8 is Black Myth: Wukong, developed by Chinese indie studio Game Science. What began as a proof of concept trailer meant to attract potential employees to the studio rapidly turned into what is now the highly anticipated Souls-like action RPG we know it as today. The game is set in 16th century China and reimagines the literary classic Journey to the West using a plethora of Chinese folklore. In it, you'll play as Sun Wukong, a mythic figure in Chinese folklore known for his strength, agility, and ability to shift into various forms, including what looks like some kind of beetle. But what really excites me about Black Myth: Wukong is how Game Science has brought a mystical China to life. Fighting creatures taken straight from Chinese mythology in lush forest environments looks not only visually striking, but it's a representation of a culture we don't get to really see or experience much, if at all, here in the West. there's some seriously jaw-dropping stuff we've gotten a look at just from the vertical slices alone. This is one Souls players are definitely going to want to put on their radar. However, before we move on, I do think it's important to highlight that the game's director has come out in the past and made misogynistic comments about how Black Myth Wukong, quote, needed no female players, and quote, some things are made only for men. This sucks. And in a lot of these comments, if this is a game you don't want to support, then I completely understand. Friendly reminder that we should work to make the games industry a less toxic and less male-dominated space by prioritizing diversity, inclusion, and promoting marginalized voices. Up next is Code to Jin Yang by Lightspeed Games. And although not much is known about the full scope of the game, we do have some details on what we can expect from the former PUBG and Apex Legends mobile team. Code to Jin Yang is an open-world action-adventure game based on the wuxia series from Chinese author Jin Yang, the first use of Jin Yang's heroes outside of the series. The game is currently running in Unreal Engine 5 and, like some of the other games we've seen from this list, features gorgeous visuals, elemental and various particle effects, stylish movement, absolutely slick combat, and an of mysticism that looks beautiful in motion. Seriously, just take a second to admire the game in action from this gameplay slice. And despite being very early in development, Code to Jin Yang looks like it'll shape up to be a satisfying game to play on a mechanical level. And whether or not what we saw from the game so far is actually just proof of concept, what's actually there is already stunning. Okay, this next pick might be a little controversial, but our number 6 is Zenless Zone Zero by MiHoYo Company. And before you dismiss it completely, hear me out because I think it's got the potential to be actually pretty awesome. ZZZ is a character-based, free-to-play action RPG that features both social elements as well as roguelite missions, all with the anime art style we've seen in the previous HoYoverse game, Genshin Impact. What excites me about ZZZ are the commissions. These are the missions where you explore what are called the Hollows, roguelike dungeons that have both intense combat encounters and various puzzles to solve. And like any good action game should have, ZZZ emphasizes its fluid combat while also introducing a stagger system where, depending on the enemy type, you'll need a certain character or weapon to deal seriously effective damage. The only downside here seems to be the gacha elements. In the hub area, New Eridu, you can walk around to take on quests, shop, unlock characters, and yeah, unlock items to boost your characters to max levels. At the very least, its free-to-play model means that Zenless Zone Zero will be worth checking out, even if you don't end up staying to grind out characters for the long haul. And while there's currently no release date for ZZZ, the game is currently in beta, so you may want to try to register for the next closed test. At number 5 on the list is one of the latest games from Team Ninja in Japan, and that's Wolong Fallen Dynasty, an action RPG set in the dark fantasy version of the late Han era. Much like others on this list, Wolong positions itself as another Souls-like experience. In addition to being inspired by the Souls genre of From Software, producer Fumihiko Yasuda said that the action in Wolong is much speedier than previous Team Ninja games, but that it's still difficult. Even more interesting is that the game is introducing a new morale mechanic that will affect the player based on whether or not they defeat or fall victim to a certain opponent. It's also worth noting that although the game offers lots of freedom in mission approach, Team Ninja did confirm that Wolong is indeed a linear game with handcrafted level design. And at the time of writing, there's currently a demo up for downloading on both PlayStation and Xbox. Although the demo is a single-player experience, the final version of the game will feature co-op as well as a hefty character creation when it launches in early 2023. Fans of the Neo series may want to put this one high up on their list. Moving on to number 4 is Where Winds Meet by Chinese studio Everstone. Recently unveiled at Gamescom Opening Night Live, Where Winds Meet is another action RPG, this time in an open world setting that shows a lot of promise based on its trailer. Set in the collapsing Ten Kingdom, you take on the role of a swordsman gaining skills from various martial arts schools to build your combat style. Part of what makes Where Winds Meet so special is that it seeks to highlight wuxia in the video game format, with the protagonist able to utilize elemental powers like wind strikes, running on water, and continuously jumping in the air. Not to mention the combat sequences we've gotten a glimpse of look fast, stunning, and responsive. And since there also appears to be a level of mysticism in the game, the developers are able to lean heavily into mythological Chinese aesthetics. Like, come on dude, are you kidding me with the art direction right here? Although there's no date currently set for Where Winds Meet, Everstone Studio did say a beta test is planned for PC later in 2022.
Detective. What a pleasant surprise.
Rounding out at number 3 is Wanted Dead by Japanese game studio Soleil. Made by former Ninja Gaiden and Dead or Alive series developers, Wanted Dead is a fast action game inspired by the likes of Devil May Cry and Bayonetta. It follows Lieutenant Hannah Stone, the leader of the zombie squad, working outside the purview of the traditional police force. But what excites me most is how slick the combat looks, mixing both sword as well as third-person shooting mechanics with intense gore, brutal finishers, and stylized slow-mo action. And according to the publisher, 110 Industries, Wanted Dead will also include several minigames, including what looks to be karaoke and competitive ramen eating? Additionally, the low-tech sci-fi setting of Wanted Dead looks to be equally as bombastic, as there appears to be both an animated and FMV elements to the events happening in the narrative. Pair that with a blood-pumping soundtrack, over-the-top characters, and intense combat, and you've got yourself an incredible-looking game. Valentine's Day is going to look a whole lot different next year when it launches on both consoles and PC. At number 2 is Project M by South Korean studio NC Soft. And while you may recognize the studio behind games like Guild Wars and Fuser, Project M is actually led by NC Ing, a team that operates on open research and a developer culture that encourages staff experimentation. Project M is an interactive narrative game, much like the ones we've seen from Quantic Dream, except without all the workplace sexism, racism, and homophobia. Fix your stuff, Quantic Dream. What really impressed me most about Project M is how cinematic the narrative is being posed in the trailer. Further, one of the goals from the NC Ing team was to achieve lifelike graphics, and you can tell how much effort they've been giving this aspect. Running in Unreal Engine 5, the NC team took high-resolution 3D scans of their actors in order to capture character expression and movements in high detail. Even the environments the team captured of real-life Korea looks almost one-to-one to what is present in the game so far. Although we don't have an official title for Project M, we do know that the game's narrative follows a man's revenge for the death of his girlfriend, although there also appears to be some kind of additional sci-fi twist surrounding the protagonist's journey. If you're into engrossing narrative games, and ones that seemingly are up to par with Asian cinema, then you may want to put Project M on your list of want-to-play games as soon as possible, and follow the developers for subsequent details. But before we close out with our number 1 pick, here are a few honorable mentions.
I will watch over you all as your blades carve a new future.
高熱検体接近。データベースにない新種のエンダーズと思われます。
頼みましたよ。コードネーム上流。설마 이분 저건 알파 네이티브야.
Could there be anything else at number 1? Closing out our list at the top is Stellar Blade, formerly known as Project Eve, from South Korean game studio Shift Up Corporation. First announced at last year's PlayStation September showcase in 2021, we finally got the official title for Stellar Blade during the most recent State of Play. And to no one's surprise, the game still looks freaking awesome. Set in the near future, Stellar Blade is a sci-fi action game that follows Eve, a survivor of the paratrooper squad deployed from the space colony to save humanity's last remaining city on Earth, Zion. And yes, this is a different spelling than the Zion in The Matrix. Judging off the 2 trailers we've gotten a look at, as well as details from the PlayStation blog, the game is very much reminiscent of Nier Automata, but with Bayonetta combat mixed with cosmic horror enemies and tons of gore. And although exploration through the city seems to be a bit slower paced, Stellar Blade makes up with fast, incredibly fluid looking combat filled with dodges, parrying, and sick combos, not to mention intense action sequences. Further details highlight platforming sections with Eve mastering skills to scale walls, slide tactically, swing across on ropes, and much more. There's also going to be bosses scattered across areas of the city offering more intense challenges. I seriously can't wait for this game. Everything from the game's tone, mesmerizing soundtrack, beautiful graphics, and yes, we are looking respectfully, and sci-fi narrative looks to be everything I look for in cool games, and especially cool games from Asia. You can expect Stellar Blade as a PS5 console exclusive sometime in 2023. That's it for this video. If you like what you saw, please consider dropping a like. You can also sub to the channel to get more videos like this one, video essays I do on video games and movies, and of course, all the podcasts we do here at the Penultimate Conquest. Let us know what games you're most excited about down below in the comments. As always, thanks so much for watching this video. Until next time, long live Chloe Zhao. Thank you, Ryan Johnson. In Denis, we trust.